firing, there's a lot of divorce, but there are various forms of marriages, and I think all of them have their equal status.
Okay, I'm going to take a break right now, and let's just shift the focus and when we come back, because there are other things that are leading to marital breakdowns, and perhaps those are as big a reason as any breakdown in being unfaithful or not being monogamous after all, such as there are lots more opportunities that are open now. There's a lot more desire for equality between the genders. Are those major factors in marriage today? Let's turn our attention to that when we come back. Welcome back to The Big Fight, where we are discussing the institution of marriage. And I think in the large part of the first segment, we were really positioning marriage and the breakdown of marriage over whether someone's going to be unfaithful or not. And yes, that's one of the major reasons why that tends to happen. But let me throw it to all of you. Arguably, these days, there are lots of other reasons. Perhaps always there have been other reasons why marriage is not working out. You know, a husband saying this is the way you have to conduct yourself. The wife saying that you're absolutely nuts to expect me to be behaving in that manner in the 21st century, or vice versa. You know, there are lots of changes that are coming about now, breakdowns over money. Is being unfaithful really the biggest issue that should be looked at in marriage today?
Being unfaithful is not the biggest issue today.
What is?
I think, like I said before the break, respect towards each other is the biggest issue today. I think that is the base of any relationship, as to how much of respect you have towards each other.
And now in the 21st century, do you think there's a much greater assertion of, certainly from women, I don't want to make this a gender debate as Suhail was saying, but is there certainly an assertion from women that you darn well better respect me? Maybe 100 years ago you could get away without it.
I think a man, if he really loves a woman, he will respect her. So I think that's where it ends. I mean, it's impossible. Of course, when you get married, every man has an idea. He has lived all his life with his mother. So he'll have this conceived ideas, or this is how my mother was, and this is how I want my wife to be. He might have lived with her, or he might have said, okay, whatever you do is perfectly fine, darling. I love you and accept you the way you are. But the minute you enter the institution of marriage, then it starts, this is how my mother would have been. This is how my mother would have treated this particular situation. Why can't you be like her? That definitely comes, and you do not blame the guy. But I think it's important for the woman also to understand the mentality of the man, and just, I'm not saying change yourself completely. I don't say compromise. I think you have to make few adjustments to make your marriage work. I think
actually sometimes more than a few adjustments may be required. And is there anything wrong in that, Suhail, that if you're getting married?
Definitely important for a woman to make much more adjustments than a man.
Is that true? Is that really true?
You know, I think Bertrand Russell summed it up brilliantly in the 1960s when he said of marriage. He says marriage is not a bargain, it's an alliance. So it's an alliance of mutuality, it's an alliance of values, as she said. It's an alliance founded on respect. It's also an alliance founded on what are you seeking together. What is suddenly happening, Vikram, and it's happening because society has evolved this way. You know, it's not that Americans don't love their wives and therefore there's more divorce. What's happening is we confuse independence with liberation. When you confuse independence with liberation, then the easiest option is to exit. The easiest option is not to adjust. When she talks about adjustment, it's not because it's a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of tremendous maturity if you're willing to accept another person's point of view. So I think there's a societal change which we need to be cognizant of and respect.
Kaushalya, if there's a problem, is that the biggest problem now in marriage? That at the end of the day, marriages are based on adjustment. You have to constantly, 24 hours a day, adjust yourself to some extent on another person.
No,
and that a lot of
there.
people don't accept anymore.
No, this has been there for ages. It's not the first time or the beginning of it. The question is, how much are you willing to adjust? Earlier, the women were adjusting a lot. And now the women expect their husbands also to make a little bit of adjustment, have the same kind of understanding, and also share their work at home and share the burden. It shouldn't be only the lady who should be doing the whole thing. And at the end of it, when the guys don't give in and don't understand, that's when the intolerance starts and a lot of problems start.
Is it only that one-sided, or is it also in many cases...
It's two-sided. It can be a lady, it can be a...
Sometimes women also don't want to make any adjustments.
Oh, yes.
This is what I've done always, this is what I'll do.
They do it, but they do it actually to prove a point also, just sometimes like men used to prove a point by saying that
so
I'm the superior.
Sometimes they go to the other extreme.
And why not?
Respect you need for each other.
If there's questions of infidelity, you have to understand that it arises from some point. It arises from some dissatisfaction, some anger, some opportunity that they could not resist because what was holding them together, the glue that was holding that together wasn't strong enough. What a lot of this arises from is a disappointment of expectations. Now, ironically, the arranged marriages have a stronger base because people go in there with a commitment to make it work. When you go into a love marriage, you think that that whining and dining and beautiful phrases and sunset walks will continue. That changes rapidly. And
So
when people start talking to each other with the wrong tone of voice, disaster follows.
You mean to say that expectations are unrealistic and are unreasonable, increasingly?
I think so. That is the basis for a lot of social upheaval and infidelity.
Arranged marriages, expectations,
I have to say some...
in arranged marriages, the expectations are not there at all. You go with open heart, open mind.
And you go for the commitment.
Yes.
You know, there are some people who would argue that after 10 years or 15 years of marriage, if the husband is really coming home every single evening with a bouquet of red roses and playing a violin, he's probably got something to be really guilty about.
Yes,
That is the reality.
You've got really something to be guilty about. Because normally that doesn't happen.
Actually,
you know, it's about wine.
Would you get alarmed if your husband suddenly came home one day with a bunch of red roses and saying, I love you,
Oh,
darling?
he's never done that in his life. So when he was talking about being romantic, so I was like, oh, okay, that's what you're supposed to do when you're dating a woman. My husband has never done that. But then on the other side, when you look at it, I think I'm just
don't do it.
No, I'm the most romantic person. My husband is not at all. So if I want to go out, I make arrangements, I make plans, I decide what we're going to do for the anniversaries. I have to remind him, listen, a week later, it's an anniversary. I said, okay, fine. So that is how it's been all for 17 years, and it's perfect arrangement for us. So I don't think there are expectations at all.
Okay.
Krishna.
That's a good
South guys don't know how to do
That
it.
expectation is called love. We always say we shouldn't expect. That expectation is called love. That love creates expectation. And we should always remember, I always say, from Indian history and
Expectation
mythology.
more or less than they were.
No, that love creates the expectation. And I would always say in Indian history, from Indian history and mythology, Krishna is not the lover person. Krishna is not the real lover. Rama is the lover. Because even after not seeing Sita for years, he said, I don't want a Kanjana Sita or golden Sita. I still want my real Sita. And he was always for her. And with all great respect to Krishna,
subjected her to the fire test.
That's his commitment to nation. That's a totally different issue. But it was unlike Krishna. And always ask yourself a simple question. If you are having a sister or a daughter, would you marry him off to a person like Krishna or a Rama? You will get the answer for what morality is.
Okay.
It depends who your daughter is.
I think
Your daughter has to be good. Your daughter cannot be a porn star and expect to marry Rama.
Why is it
I think to forget an anniversary is not absence of love, it's just convenient and cheaper. So
Good move.
Listen, are you
Quote that.
Are you sure he's a
Convenient
guy?
and cheaper.
Doctor, you have been badly affected somewhere.
coming back
He seems to be an economist.
I hope you
coming
didn't
back
have
to the
a
original
bank
issue, most
account with
marriages.
You mean people deliberately forget anniversary because it's cheaper?
I do.
You do. Aha.
I
This
remind
is
him about
convinced. He
the
said, I do.
anniversaries, but then he pays for the bills.
My wife makes
You
more
do
money
realize
than
this
me,
has gone on television, so you heard him saying that he deliberately forgets
love this, but he's
anniversaries
only talking
because
about bank
it is
accounts.
cheaper. Sorry?
He's the first gynecologist who's been seized with money.
I thought all doctors are profoundly moved
So,
on it. Anyway.
coming back to the original issue, lot of marriages are breaking because of other relatives in the house. Expectations from a woman is not from the husband alone. It's from sister-in-law. I mean, we just have to make adjustments with the woman.
But again, always the
has to do
case.
rest
They're in
of
a
the
joint family as your mother-in-law. Or
even if it's not a joint family, even a visiting mother-in-law or a mother-in-law on email can do equal harm. So you don't really need
These
a
are
physical
daughters-in-law are even worse than the mothers-in-law.
Well, whatever, which way, yes, it could be, of course, certainly. So when it comes to expectations, I think a lot of them come from the lifestyle you need, and I think some of these girls are being raised to a Barbie princess kind of an living, where they expect the rest of the life to continue like that. When doesn't harsh realities hit women sooner or later, and they have to make a lot of arrangements. Same with guys. You know, a lot of time. But just one point I'll make before. I don't agree with Kabirji that there is a deprivation in marriage that you look for extramarital affairs. Actually, most people statistically have extramarital affair, have an apparently very happy marriage, and actually it's not like a food appetite where if you've eaten enough, you're not hungry anymore.
So you can always
it's
justify
actually,
that, Vikram.
yeah, to improve your self-esteem, status, you actually sometimes cross the line because it is to prove a point or just because you want more and different. And it's a very different kind of...
And along with sex education, I strongly propose that there should be given value education and premarital training. Because like physically we are different, there are also psychological differences. As they say, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. They should be given orientation about understanding their frameworks of reference.
Understand each other. Is there a problem, what he said, that women are increasingly being trained, being brought up in a Barbie doll princess sort of a manner, so their expectations are totally crazy?
No. They are equally grilled. I don't agree with it.
There's a very interesting phenomenon here, because women, in general, I underline, in general, women are brought up with a Cinderella complex. That they grow up, Prince Charming will come and ride into the sunset. Men, on the other hand, have the James Bond complex. They want to do what they want, wherever they want, however they want, for as long as they can. So when they get married, a woman is achieving a fantasy and a man is giving up a fantasy.
No, I don't agree.
No, I think women are more...
That's actually quite an interesting way of putting it.
Women are more loyal to institutions than men are.
Yeah.
You will find more male
He's saying
it's
because men are being asked to give up something and women are getting what they want.
No, I think that whole concept of machismo is there, but it's waning. It's on the decline.
I want to turn to the audience and I want to give you one final word before I do that.
No, I think when he talked about, he said about girls being brought up in those fairy tale, fantasy kind of an atmosphere. I don't think that's happening. I have 2 girls, Kavirji, but I think they're very, very brought up in a very practical way, where I see to it that they do the normal work. Of course, as a parent, you know that you have to give the best. You don't know what kind of a life partner they're going to choose tomorrow. But at the same time, I think they're growing up in a very, very practical manner. There's no fairy tale atmosphere around. There a Prince Charming is going to come on riding on a horse and going to take you away.
Absolutely. That's why I underlined the word in general. I'm saying in general.
Anybody riding up on a horse is certainly not going to happen. Okay, I have to turn to the audience. I'm going to take a quick break. The audience when I come back. Welcome back to The Big Fight. We're discussing the institution of marriage. Let me turn to the audience now. First of all, some quick unscientific snap polling. How many of you still believe in the institution of marriage?
I believe. Strongly.
All of you. No, somebody doesn't. You don't. Why don't you?
I don't necessarily have to get into this institution of marriage to draw a line that I don't want to get attracted to any other person because I love someone.
Okay.
You know, I know a lot of film stars who are at the age crossing 35, 36 and they're not married. And they have no status in their life as yet. You know, if you were socially married. And
you mean you only get status if you're married?
Yeah, if you have a family, you know, you are recognized and socially.
Okay, can I ask all of you, do you agree with that your status goes up if you're married?
Yes.
You don't agree with that? Lady out here.
I wanted to say, like, if you're in a live-in relationship, then why do you need to draw a line if you're actually living with that person?
You do have a... I assume you do, because it's a monogamous live-in relationship.
Listen, get real. Yeah. There was a time when bachelors had other bachelors as competition. Then became a time when bachelors had married men as competition. Today, people are cheating on their mistresses. Where do bachelors go?
So, Hale, we'll discuss your problems later.
She's right.
Offline. Okay, the lady out here.
So I would like to say that marriage is still now, we've been hearing that marriage is a sacrosanct and living relationships is not. But now we have these concepts coming in like open marriages. So what about that?
Ah, that's an interesting question. Like what about those? Okay, the gentleman out here, then I have to go back to the panel.
Whether it is love marriage or arranged marriage, a good wife is a crown to her husband. Always
a good husband?
A crown to her husband. Crown.
A good wife?
A good wife is a crown to her husband.
Crown. A good wife is a crown to her husband. I must remember to use that somewhere.
But don't, it's grammatically incorrect. Just say crown on a husband.
Okay, fine. All right, let me come back to all of you. Let me get final thoughts from all of you. I'm going to start with you. Let's get your final thoughts to sum up what you believe.
I think marriage is a contract we willingly enter. There are desires, there are temptations which you resist, and the price there's a cost and a benefit, and the price, eventually the reward you get is eternal bliss, which is wonderful, and that's why we stick to it. But to believe that it is not. The only problem comes when third people, whether institutions, impose morality. To me, morality has always been very convenient, and it's my morality is always, you know, I am the one. I think we all born by our own ethical codes, and in marriage is a very personal relationship, and so is personal morality.
I believe Bertrand Russell wrongly believed in a concept called free love. There is nothing called free love. Love always comes with a cost, and the cost is your heart or soul or a lifetime commitment. So I believe institutionally as a nation, we should uphold the norms of the marriage. We should give value education. We should give sex education, premarital training. So